Hello, everyone.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening. If you joined us on Tuesday, welcome back. If this is your first time joining us, then it's so nice to see you this evening. So I just wanted to, Stacy, can you go to the next slide? So I just wanted to start off the session by introducing ourselves, and then I'm going to give you a little bit more of ground rules, and then we're going to go straight into our presentation. So my name is Eva Reyes, and I'm the Director of Parent and Family Relations. I am the person that keeps sending you emails, inviting you to these sessions. I am going to be your point of contact with any questions that you may have about your student, any like let's say you can't get in touch with a certain office, like you could get in touch with me and then we'll figure things out together. You're not in this alone. I'm in this with you. So I am more than happy to answer any questions and guide you through anything that you need guidance with. So then I'll let Stacy introduce herself.
Good evening, everyone. Stacy and Brown. I'm the Director of Financial Aid here at William Patterson University. Thank you for joining us this evening, and hopefully we have some helpful information to share with you. Diana?
Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining. My name is Diana Nunez, and I'm one of the assistant directors here at the Financial Aid Office of William Patterson.
Thank you. So I'm going to give you a little bit of ground rules so that everyone is on the same page. Everyone is on mute. The session is being recorded, so that way we're able to send it to you afterwards so that you could refer back to it as you would like. The closed caption is available. You just have to click on the button at the bottom of the screen. Put your questions in the QA box. That way it's better for us to keep track of the questions and answer them at the end. We're going to have the session and then towards the end, we're going to have a Q&A. And then at the end, when you log off, you're going to get little tiny survey. It's only 4 questions. Please provide me your feedback because that's going to help me develop more programs for you so that you're able to help your student. And while we're getting started, put where you're from in the chat. That way other families could start to see, oh, hey, this person is from Clifton, or this person is from Connecticut, or this person is from Pennsylvania. That way you know what kind of likeness you have with each other. So with that said, let's get started.
All right, thanks, Eva. So tonight we're going to go over a few topics. The application process, which many of you might have gone through at this point already, federal and state verification, the different types of financial aid on campus, job opportunities, what are direct and indirect costs, as those will be terms you'll hear throughout your students' college career, billing information, payment options, special circumstances, and here in the financial aid world, what is called SAP. Okay, so a little bit of overview of the financial aid process. At this point, I know most of you have already completed the federal application for financial aid, the FAFSA. For the 25-26 age year. The FAFSA applications opens every year annually in October, typically October 1st for the upcoming fall. So the application is currently open right now for fall 25. So if you haven't done that yet, there's still a lot of time to complete that. However, you do want to complete the application as soon as possible to know how much aid your student is eligible for going into the term. Um, Let's go forward. So the federal verification process. So once you submit the FAFSA application, you may be selected for federal verification. And that is just a process that requires the institution to verify the information you put on the FAFSA. Tax information for parent and or student, household data, and any other information that the Department of Education requires us to verify identity, proof of citizenship, anything of that nature. Parents and students would need to obtain tax return transcripts if required. So that is just the IRS version of the tax return you would have filed for 2023. If the information you submit to us differs from what is on the FAFSA, that may change the financial aid offer. So if your student is selected for federal verification, that is something that you want to do as soon as possible, just so we get that document, verify it, and then it kind of solidifies the amount of aid that the student will receive for the fall and spring semester. Also important to note is that we cannot disperse or pay any financial aid to the student's account until this process is completed if required. The state of New Jersey also has a verification process. It is very similar and requested for the very same reasons. So they might require verification of tax information, a student's filing status, so on and so forth. They do verify their own data. So while the federal government may not select a student for verification, meaning the student would have to submit that documentation to the institution, the state of New Jersey might. So that is a reason to have the student create an account with the state of New Jersey, which is known as NJ So they would create an account, sign in, and see if there are any outstanding requirements, as well as the state of New Jersey will email the student at the email address provided on their FAFSA if any documents are outstanding or if they need to respond to anything. As the institution, William Patterson will also notify the student of any incomplete state requirements. So it's threefold. We'll move into the different types of financial aid. So as far as you submit your FAFSA, everything is processed, you're selected for verification, you've completed your requirements, we've verified it, and or you're not selected. So the next part of that process is determining what types of financial aid the student is eligible for based on that application. So there are grants, which are need-based and don't need to be paid back. The grants that result from the FAFSA are federal or state grants. There are scholarships, need or merit-based. There are need-based scholarships offered by the state of New Jersey, as well as some scholarships may require the completion of a FAFSA. Again, scholarships is money that don't need to be paid back. There is work study, which is need-based and federally funded. So students may be eligible for that. We'll talk a little bit about on-campus job opportunities and work study a little bit later in the presentation. And then finally, there are loans. So this is money that can be applied for by the student and or parent. Students are eligible for loans from the FAFSA at a specific amount. And then if because the student's account balance or their bill, they need additional funding, additional loan options are available. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation as well. So the different types of grants that you will see is the federal Pell Grant, which is the most popular and the largest program, which is eligibility is determined by the FAFSA. So once the FAFSA is submitted, the Pell Grant amount is determined based on the family and income information entered. And so that Pell Grant is the amount of the grant that you will receive, regardless of what university the student decides to attend, because that is a federal grant. It applies to any institution. Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, that is the FSEOG. This is for undergraduate students with exceptional financial need. This is a federal program with limited funding, so this is typically applied to those students who complete their admissions applications fairly early in the process, so that when we put out those first financial aid offers, they're usually swept up in that first batch because it's the first come, first serve program because it is limited funding. We do offer the Federal Teach Education Assistance for College and Higher Education Grant, so the TEACH grant. It is available at William Patterson University for students enrolled in certain teaching education programs. And typically the students would just need to inquire within to discuss the application and funding availability. And then finally, the New Jersey Tuition Aid Grant. That is the state's version of the Pell Grant. So that is the TAG grant is determined by the FAFSA as well and the state of New Jersey. And that again is a grant, so money that does not need to be paid back. After we go through our grants, then there are institutional and external scholarship opportunities. So some students may have already received scholarship offered scholarships or merit scholarships from the institution. So that would have been included in the admissions packet once the students applied and submitted their high school transcripts and resumes and things of that nature. And then there are also external and private scholarship opportunities, and those are scholarships that are sourced from external, whether companies or institutions that the student would go out and apply for. And those scholarships can count towards the student's account and help to reduce their overall balance. And we do have some links in here. So if you go to our financial aid homepage, the William Patterson website, we do have a list of external and private scholarships listed, as well as institutional scholarships available. Federal loans and interest rates. So the federal loans a student might see from completing the FAFSA. So is the direct subsidized loans and direct unsubsidized loans at the undergraduate level, which is the demographic of students we're particularly speaking of right now. So those are, the student would be offered a certain amount of that loan based on their academic level. So being first year, sophomore, junior, or senior as a first year student, they would be eligible for up to $5,500 in a federal subsidized and or unsubsidized loan. The 6.39% is the current fixed rate for that loan if taken out for the fall 25 semester. That is a fixed rate, and the interest will accrue on those loans at that rate if borrowed. The other two loan types are for graduate or professional students and the parents of undergraduate students. So I'll speak specifically to the Direct Plus Loan Program for parents. So that is a federal loan that a parent can apply for on behalf of the student to help cover any outstanding balance that may be on their account for the fall and or spring semester. That loan has a fixed interest rate of 8.94%. That is the fixed rate that every parent will get, regardless of creditworthiness. And it's standard for everyone who applies. And that loan typically takes about a day or two to get you get a credit response immediately upon application, and then it takes about a day or two for it to be sent to the institution. There are also private educational loan options. So these are loans that are educational loans offered by private institutions such as your Sallie Mae, your Citizens Bank, and Bank of America. If basically any banking institution that offers a educational loan are considered private loans and can be used towards educational costs. I would say the major difference between applying for, or when parents typically ask whether they should go for a Parent Plus loan or a private loan, is that, as I mentioned earlier, the Parent Plus loan has one standard interest rate, right? So regardless if your credit worthiness, the 8.94% is the interest rate for everyone who applies and is approved. With a private loan, you might get a lower interest rate, right? So that would be something that you would weigh as to which one would be better for you. Tuition-free opportunities. So William Patterson has what's called the Pledge for Success program, which offers students of families with an adjusted gross income between $0 and $65,000. The Pledge for Success covers 100% of tuition and mandatory fees in the student's first and second year. So that's 0 to 59.5 credits. And in their third and fourth year, 60 to 127 credits, the state of New Jersey takes care of, we hand off to the state of New Jersey with the same requirements. So adjusted gross income of the family is 0 to 65,000. The state of New Jersey covers 100% of tuition and mandatory fees. Housing and meal plans are not covered under these programs, just tuition and mandatory fees. The out-of-state tuition waiver. So for students who reside outside of the state of New Jersey or not New Jersey residents, this program allows them to pay the in-state tuition rate. So all students upon admission, if they're non-New Jersey residents, will be issued an out-of-state tuition scholarship, is how it will be presented on the financial aid offer, and they will retain that out-of-state waiver for up to 8 semesters or 4 years, so long as they maintain a minimum 2.0 GPA or 3.0 as a graduate student, and make sure they maintain full-time enrollment each semester. For our international students, we have a similar program known as the Pioneer Award, but this covers 80% of the difference between in-state and out-of-state tuition. So for our undergraduate students, it has the same requirements, maintain a 2.0 GPA after your first year and be enrolled full-time for every subsequent semester. Federal Work Study. So this is the federal grant program that allows students with high need to work an on-campus job and earn money as they go. So money is not applied to the student's balance. It's similar to working anywhere else, right? They'll work in an on-campus position, whether in a department that's for their major or just another department that has a job available, and they will earn money, earn a paycheck similar to any other job, and they can use those funds to kind of help, well, whether it's pocket money or help them pay for costs or expenses that may come up during the course of their education. Students must attend an online student employment workshop to be considered, which is on our financial aid homepage. Once they complete the webinar, they'll be sent information as to employment opportunities and the application process. Aid offers. So if you've gone all the way through the financial aid process, you've done the FAFSA, you would have received electronically a financial aid offer letter, which would have looked like this. We began sending out aid offers for the fall 25 on February 19th. All notifications are electronic, so it was sent to, or it will continue to be sent to a WP email, personal email, and via text message. Revised notices are also sent via the same format. So if you're looking at the aid offer, you'll see what is considered direct costs. So a student who has a direct cost of just tuition and fees, this would be a student that is commuting, meaning a student that is not living on campus. A direct cost is typically cost that will appear on a student's bill, right? So it's directly related to the cost of enrollment, right? So student that is commuting, not living on campus would only have tuition and fees here. We estimated the tuition and fees for this year, 16,200. The actual tuition rate for the fall semester and the spring for the fall 25, spring 26 terms were just issued today. So that will be available on the university website in the next coming days. So you can see what the actual tuition rate is going into the fall semester. Students will also be issued a billing statement sometime next month, which Diana will talk a little bit more about that, just giving the actual tuition and fee rates. It's important to note that tuition and fee rates that we do use on the aid offer is typically an estimate, our best estimate of what the tuition increases will be prior to them being issued. So a little bit about the direct cost. So direct cost for a commuter, as I was mentioning, you would only see tuition and fees. If that were a resident student or a student living on campus, they would see dorm room and meal plan, right? So that is an aid offer that a student living on campus would see, because that would be the cost that they would be billed for. Indirect costs as a commuter would be housing and meal plan, books and supplies, transportation, and indirect costs are costs that the family might incur while the student is enrolled, and so may need to plan for with other funding sources, but they will not receive a bill. That these things will not be on the student's bill from the university. They're just costs that might be incurred. As a dorm student, we see that housing and meal plan now appears as a direct cost because that student would be living on campus, and thus those things would be billed to their account. Indirect costs for a dorming student would be books and supplies, transportation, miscellaneous, because these things still, as a dorming student, would not be billed to the student's account. The health insurance is considered a direct cost for both categories, but can be waived. Currently, the health insurance waiver process is not yet available as to the fall deadline and process, but it will be available at this website once the insurance is ready to be offered and once the waiver process is opened. All right, I'm going to hand off to Diana.
Thank you, Stacey. And now we've discussed about the financial aid offer letter, and the different types of aid. Now we're going to talk about your bill. So how can you see your bill? Students will see this information in their WP Connect portal. Their WP Connect portal is where everything lies, all their information. And once they log in, they'll see this section right here. It says billing and payment. And then right underneath it, it's a blue bar. It says click here to view your balance. Within this section, you can also see different options like your 1098 tax form, billing and payment home, enroll in a payment plan, make a payment, sign up for your e-refunds, and view your statements. So right in the portal, the students will be able to access their billing portal, which will have this information. So once they click here to view your balance, they'll be able to see in their portal their actual charges. So this would be their statement, their activity per semester, the tuition and fees, their room and board rates, and they'll be able to go ahead and make payments. They'll also be able to see the financial aid applied to that balance. So for instance, if their bill for the term is 8,500, they'll see what their charge is, and then they'll see minus the estimated financial aid. And then underneath that would be the final amount due after the estimated financial aid. They'll also see their payment due date on their statement and in their portal. Now, the bills will be sent out actually in the first week of July. So you can expect to have your bill by July 7th. So the process for the fall semester is students start registering in March. The bills will go out in July. This year is going to be July 7th. And then the payments are usually due the first week of August. So the bills go out to the students. The students will then log into their WP Connect portal and then access their bill. However, if you as parents would like access to this information and also to make payments, the students can add they can add a parent or both parents to their payment portal as an authorized user. They'll use your email and they'll use your information. Then you'll get a link and we'll be able to set up your username and password so that you can log into the payment portal and also access the bill. You'll be able to make payments and you'll also be able to look at your statements. And then for the spring semester, so the enrollment will be mid-October. The bills will be sent out in November and they will be due the first week in January. And usually it's right after the new year, the bill will be due for the spring semester. And Eva just added in the chat that the fall bills will be due August 7th. So we're looking at July 7th and August 7th for the bills to be sent out and the due date. And as I mentioned, who can view your bill? The students have access to the bill, but they can provide access to the parents to become authorized users and access the information themselves. However, this is only for the portal. It does not provide access to grades or other confidential information that the student has on their WP Connect portal. It only allows for the payment portal. Now, if the student has questions about their, if the parent has questions about the student and how they're doing, there's something called the Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act. The student will be 18, they're an adult, and they have their right to privacy, and we cannot provide the information we can only provide information to the student. However, the student can complete the FERPA authorization form authorizing our offices and the university to provide you with either academic, financial aid, and also billing information. The student would have to complete the FERPA form, put your information, and then create a PIN. It's a 4-digit PIN number that if you were to call, I would say, hello, mom or dad. Thank you for calling. Can I please have your name and can I please have the PIN? Once you provide me with that PIN, then I'm able to go ahead and give you the information for the student in regards to, as I mentioned, their financial aid, billing, and academic information. Now, methods of payment. So we've reviewed the financial aid. We have the scholarships, the loans, the private loans, but there are also third-party payments such as outside scholarships. And that, as I mentioned, you'll see in the payment portal already added to your balance if it's institutional funds and federal and state funds. Any outside funds, so for instance, out of pocket, that will not appear there, but you'll be able to make the payment. So for instance, if you wanted to pay in cash, you can do so in person at Morrison Hall. For checks, also in person in Morrison Hall, or you could do e-payments online in the WP Connect portal, so parents and students and authorized users. Also on the portal, there is credit card and debit card payments. However, for card payments, there is a 3% convenience fee. So if you are making a payment online and are deciding between a debit card and a check, just know that if you do your e-check, that there is no additional fee. Now, there are also payment plan options. So the university offers tuition installment plan, we call it TIP, and it's an installment plan where the total amount due gets broken up equally over 5 months. There is no interest on it, but there is a $25 sign up fee. So for instance, for the fall semester, if we're starting the 5 month installment plan, they will start in July, August, September, October, November. Let's say your balance was $5,000, then it would be broken up evenly $1,000 at the beginning of the month for 5 months. And there are 5 months for the fall. And then in the spring, the payments would start in December. The payments would be December, January, February, March, and April for the spring semester. If you decided that you weren't certain whether you wanted to do the installment plan in July and waited till August, that's fine. We can also start the payment plans in August. They would just be 4 month installments. And that'd be starting in August. And then for the spring, it would start in January. And then other payment plans are also available through the Office of Student Enrollment Services because these plans do start at the first of the month. And sometimes, most of us have a lot of different bills that are due on the first of the month. So if you need any different accommodations, you can speak to the Office of Student Enrollment Services and they'll work with you in order for different payment plan options. Now, special circumstances. The FAFSA uses the income information from 2023. We are now in 2025. There can be instances where there have been changes, financial changes in the household and with the family that have changed the family's financial situation from 2023. So if your family is experiencing a different financial information from the time that you completed the FAFSA, we do have what's called a special conditions request form. It is located on our financial aid website under the forms tab, and you would be able to fill out this form and provide some additional documentation for our office to then review to see if you might be eligible for any additional aid based on your circumstance. Some examples of special circumstances are unemployment, disability, retirement, divorce or separation, loss of unemployment benefits, loss of full-time work, and there can be others, but these are some examples. So if you feel like you are experiencing a circumstance that is different from the time that you completed the FAFSA and also from your income information in 2023, you would reach out directly to the Office of Financial Aid. Like I said, the form is on our website and Epic just actually added it to the chat as well. So you can review the form and then submit it to our office with the required supporting documentation. And our office will review to see if you're eligible for any additional financial aid. Now, lastly, we're going to talk about satisfactory academic progress, also known as SAP. To be eligible for federal and state aid funds, a student must be making satisfactory academic progress, and there are three components to it. The first one is a GPA requirement. The GPA requirement is a 2.0 or better, and that is a cumulative GPA requirement. The second is a completion rate. So the student must complete 67% of attempted credits. So example, I usually use if a student is taking 4 classes their first semester and they pass 2 and then they fail 2, their completion rate is 50%. That means that this student is not meeting satisfactory academic progress. and they would need to make sure to successfully pass all of the credits and classes going forward so that they're meeting that 67% completion rate. The last one is the maximum credits. For an undergraduate degree, you need 120 credits. In order to continue to receive federal and state aid, the student cannot complete more than 180 credits. After 180 credits, they are no longer eligible for any financial aid because it's 150% of the degree credits required to graduate. So that would be the third component. However, we understand that sometimes things happen out of the student's control that might have caused them to not do well or not to successfully complete their courses in that semester. And that's why we have what's called the SAP appeal. In this appeal, students get the opportunity to express to the university, to an appeal committee, of what happened in that semester that did not allow them to successfully complete their courses, and they can appeal so that they can continue to receive aid. An example I like to give is that if a student is a commuter student and was in a car accident, God forbid, the student is in a car accident, the car isn't working anymore, they have trouble getting to classes, or they were hospitalized, they had an injury. Well, they would complete the appeal application indicating what occurred, and they're saying that that's what caused them not to be able to successfully complete the semester. And then what has changed? So what has changed is now the student's car is fixed, they are all better, they are healthy, and they have no problem in the following semesters to get to class and to get to successfully complete their semester. So we are understanding that there are circumstances that can be out of the student's control, and we will have the students complete the appeal. The appeals committee will review and determine if the student can be eligible to continue to receive aid on a probationary period. In that probationary period, the student will then be able to complete their courses with a financial aid, and they would have to complete them successfully, so they would not be able to fail them, withdraw, get a D. So it has to be 2.0 or better so that they can meet the satisfactory academic progress. And that is all for us. My name is Diana Nunez. I'm one of the assistant directors in the Office of Financial Aid. We are located in Morrison Hall, room 101. Please feel free to take a picture of this image, but this PowerPoint presentation will be shared with you later on with our phone number, our email, and our website as well.
Thank you. So at this moment, we're going to start our Q&A portion because I want to ensure that all of you leave here reassured that all of your questions were answered. But before we start with the questions that are in the chat and the Q&A, I want us to go over the difference in loans, right? Difference in between the subsidized and the unsubsidized loan. Because students may look at these two loans on their account and they're like, well, do I have to take all this money? Like, what if I only need a portion? Like, what? Like, can you explain that? And then what happens? Like, can they take portion of it? What is the suggestion?
Okay, so students will be offered upon completion of the FAFSA a subsidized and or unsubsidized loan. So the subsidized loan is based on need, right? So student has to have or express need based on their cost of attendance. If a student is offered a subsidized loan, that loan is interest-free. Or does not accrue interest while the student is enrolled at least half time. For an undergraduate student, that is currently 6 credits. And so that is the preferred loan to accept first. So for example, a first-year student may be asked, maybe offered $3,500 in a subsidized loan and $2,000 in an unsubsidized loan, right? As I mentioned earlier, first-year students are offered $5,500 maximum in federal student loans, some of which, $3,500 of which is typically subsidized and $2,000 unsubsidized. So the subsidized loan, the $3,500, you would accept what you need of that first. If the student needs let's say the student needs $4,000, right? They would accept the $3,500 in a subsidized loan first because that loan is interest-free until the student completes their program. And then the difference in the unsubsidized loan. The unsubsidized loan is accruing interest while the student is enrolled. So the difference is the big difference is the subsidized loan does not accrue interest while the student is enrolled. The unsubsidized loan does. So if offered a subsidized loan, it is best to use that loan first, and then use the unsubsidized loan if necessary, and then any other additional loans. So if the parent needs to do a Parent Plus loan or a private loan, so it's subsidized, unsubsidized, Parent Plus, and private loans.
Thank you. So I have more questions, but I'm gonna, play tag team here with our audience. So one of the questions in the Q&A is, I was told that my son needs to accept his FAFSA amount. How do we do that? Is it on the FAFSA website or is it on the student portal?
So all the grants or scholarships offered to the student is automatically accepted. Student does not need to take action on free aid, as we call it, so money that does not need to be paid back. However, if you intend or the student intends to utilize a portion of the loan offered, they would need to accept that loan. The aid offer does have a link directly on instructions on how to accept the federal loans, but accepting the loans is via WP Connect, so the student's portal. So the students would log into WP Connect under the financial aid section. They would see awards, financial aid awards, and there would be a section for them to accept all or a portion of the loans offered. And Diana just put the link to a YouTube video with instructions on how to do that in the student portal.
Thank you. So then another question from the Q&A. We were given the Pell Grant from FAFSA. Is there anything else that we need to do to get it, or does it automatically reduce the cost?
It is automatic. So anything that comes from the FAFSA, we are notified of the student's eligibility for the federal Pell Grant. So that would be automatically applied to the student's account and do not need to take action on that. As I mentioned earlier, grants and scholarships are automatically accepted on the student's behalf.
Thank you. So then the next set of questions, they have to do with the tuition free program. So one of the questions is the out-of-state tuition waiver applied automatically? And how do you apply for the tuition free program?
So the out-of-state tuition waiver is applied automatically. So there's nothing you need to do. Once we notice that the student is a non-New Jersey resident, so let's say for New York, for example, or that student should already have the out-of-state tuition scholarship on their account. And it will be the difference between the in-state and out-of-state tuition. In order to maintain that scholarship, however, the student does need, once they're enrolled, so at the end of the next spring semester, we will look at a student account to make sure they're meeting the minimum 2.0 GPA and that they are full-time, so a minimum of 12 credits every semester in order to keep it. So as long as they're a minimum 2.0 at the end of the academic year, each year, and they're full-time every semester, they will retain that award. So no application necessary.
Thank you. Are independent students eligible for the Pledge for Success funding?
Yes, so independent and dependent students are eligible for a Pledge for Success. It is only available to our main campus students. If you're in the WP Online program, that program is not available to students in the WP Online program. But if you're in our standard main campus program, yes, independent student, we would just look at or evaluate the adjusted gross income of the student on the FAFSA. It is important to note that there must be income, so your income has to be 0 to 65,000. If you did not work, if you have no income listed on your FAFSA, you would not qualify. You have to have some form of earnings. So you have to have billable earnings. If you did not work in 2023, if you have tax return not filed, that does not make you eligible. Your income has to be between 0 and 65,000.
So then another question in the QA is, if parents are divorced, can the bill be split and spent separately or sent separately, or does it need to be one bill? Is there a pro con for either situation?
I'll take this answer. So for the bill, there is one bill and that the student has access to in their payment portal. If the student wants to then give access to both parents, even though they're divorced, they can. And then the family must decide upon themselves how that payment will occur. But the bill is just one bill and it's sent to the student.
Thank you. So then, so I have a question about SAT. Can you go over when a student is in jeopardy of like of becoming like not being satisfactory academic, not making satisfactory academic progress?
Okay, so if your student
Particularly a first year student, because that's our
Okay, so
audience today.
your first year student starting in the fall semester. They complete the fall semester, they complete the spring 2026 semester. At the end of the spring 2026 semester, once grades are submitted and the GPA is calculated by the university, that is when we will first assess the student that the student is meeting satisfactory academic progress. That is that the student has a cumulative GPA of 2.0 at minimum, and that they have earned at least 67% of the credits they've taken. Once we do that evaluation, if a student is meeting those minimum standards, they pass on, they're okay to go on to the fall semester. If a student is not meeting one or more of those standards, then we will send them the student notice, that they are not meeting SAP and that they have the opportunity to submit an online appeal to regain eligibility, and be placed on probation, a semester's probation.
Thank you. So, so there are follow-up questions to the Pledge for Success and being an independent student. As far and Diana put some answers in the chat, but just in case anyone has like the same questions. How would the student proceed in inquiring about eligibility?
So that is also not an application process. So we review every FAFSA application for eligibility. If the student is the pledge for success, again, is a student has to be up to a sophomore, so 0 to 59.5 credits. And then we will evaluate every FAFSA application to determine if the student is meeting the adjusted gross income standard. And then that is applied to the student's account.
And if anyone,
Just to add on that, that it is for tuition and fees and mandatory fees only. So if the student is already covered from other aid, so let's say if they get full Pell and full tag, you're not going to see the Pledge for Success on there because their tuition is already covered by other state and federal aid.
so if the student still has questions about that, they could just contact your office, correct?
Yes.
Thanks. You already went over that like that the FAFSA determines grant and loan eligibility, right? But how can a parent or a student apply for additional loans?
So we recommend applying for loans once they receive the billing statements, which will be issued, as mentioned, in a few weeks. Once you know the exact amount of the tuition fees and any other associated fees with the student's accounts, if they're dorming, they'll have dorm charges. You'll know exactly the amount of money that you will need. For the federal Parent Plus loan, which the parent of a dependent student may apply for on the student's behalf, they can do so at studentaid.gov. So that's the very same website that the student did the FAFSA. The parent would log in with their username and password and complete the Direct Parent Plus loan application. On the application, they would indicate the amount they want, or there is an option to indicate maximum, in which the school will determine what their maximum eligibility is. Once they submit that application, they will get an immediate credit decision on screen. And then the decision of if approved, it's typically sent to the institution within 24 to 48 business hours, and then applied to the student's account. For private loans, which Eva just placed in the chat, we have a historical lender list on our website of external lenders, which parents could review the lenders available, look at their different options, variable versus fixed interest rate, based on what option best works for the family, and apply for those loans. The greatest difference, one of the greatest differences between two programs is private loans take up to 15 business days for a decision. So that process could be a significantly longer process to get a decision and kind of know how much you'll be approved for and for it to be sent to the school. So if you're thinking the private loan option, that's something you want to do immediately. Once you kind of have a handle on how much you're going to need out of pocket, because that process could take quite a bit longer to be approved and sent to the institution for awarding.
And add to that, when you're applying, you want to apply for the full academic year, which is the fall and the spring. So if you see that your bill in the fall is going to be $5,000, then you know that you want to apply for $10,000 so that it covers the fall semester and the spring semester. This way you avoid having to apply again before the spring bills are due. And you know that the student will be covered, if approved, for the full academic year.
So families, these are all great questions. So we're going to shift the topic a little bit to work study. So how many hours is typically for work study, and is the work study option available for one semester at a time? My daughter will be an athlete. I'm not sure how much time she will have during the season and what happens during the off season.
So typically work study currently is typically 20 hours per week. And it's based on job availability, different areas of campus. And again, it is based on whether the student has the capacity. They can do as little or as many hours as they can, up to 20 hours. So if they are eligible, again, the student has to exhibit financial needs. So it is reviewed on a case-by-case basis. I would say the quickest and easiest way to find out if a student is eligible is to watch that webinar, go to our webpage for work study on the financial aid homepage, and complete that webinar, watch that webinar. Once you submit or have completed the webinar, it will be sent to our student employment administrators, and they will review the student's eligibility and let the student know, okay, great, you're eligible for up to this many hours in federal work study. You may go and try to find an on-campus opportunity.
And it's not, students who are eligible aren't automatically placed in a position. It's like a regular job. You have to apply, you have to interview, and be hired by that particular department in order to work that federal work study job. And the students get paid bi-weekly. That's why it does not go on the bill or towards the charges, because as Stacy mentioned, 1 week they can work 5 hours because they had finals or midterms or wanted to study, and then the next week they could work 10 hours. So it just really depends on the students. And the difference between work study and on-campus job is the work study is a federal program. There are on-campus jobs that are not work study. And in the portal, in the job application portal, you'll see a distinction. A job will say work study, and a job will say, it would just say the position. And that particular position can be funded by a particular department. So all the positions will specify the difference.
So I'm going to do a shameless plug here because my office is looking for a federal work study student for the upcoming year. So if your student has any experience in social media, they like to create content, they like to create graphics and things like that, please send them my way. It's a great opportunity for them to like polish their skills, add things to their portfolio, their resume. They're going to manage my social media and help with uploading the YouTube videos and all that. So if your student has the skills, please, please, please send them my way, or let's chat during your schedule orientation session, and then I'll give them everything that they need in order to apply for the position. So that's my shameless plug there. Also, career development does have like a student worker job fair. They had one in the fall, they had one in the spring. They're looking to schedule the same for the upcoming year. So let's say if your student is not able to see anything, they can attend the job fair, and most likely they'll be able to find something there. So we're gonna move on to another question. I have notified your office about the DEA Veterans Program. Thank you for your service, but I have not heard from anyone yet.
So you wouldn't contact our department. You would need to contact Veterans Benefits. Veterans Benefits Office, they'll be able to guide you on the documentation that is required in order for the university to receive those benefits and for them to be applied to your account. So my recommendation is please contact our Veteran Benefits Office. And I did do that. I'm just letting you all know. Great. So once you have done that, they will provide us with that information and they will flag students' accounts usually get flagged saying that they are receiving veterans benefits. And a lot of those benefits get sent after the semester starts, but the students' accounts are flagged so that we know that those benefits will be coming in.
So another question, is there a good way of estimating the typical indirect cost for a resident student? A way to get a ballpark around there.
So what I would say right now is within the next day or two, more than likely, by Monday, if it's not up already, the actual tuition and fees, and dorm rates. So that is the cost of a particular, housing on campus and the meal plans will be listed on our website. So definitively, that is the best way to estimate, right? Is using the actual numbers as presented by the university, because those are the actual figures you will see on your bill. As I mentioned, the estimates on the aid offer you may have received would have been our best estimate as to what the tuition increase would be for the fall. But that information has been approved just today. Tuition and fees were approved. So that information will be on our website shortly as to the actual tuition and fees. So you can estimate, okay, if I choose this dorm, if I choose this meal plan, this would be my tuition and fees. If I'm full-time, that would be the best estimate to utilize until the bills are issued for the individual student.
Thank you. So there's another question. You mentioned the job fair. Love it. We love it too. Is that for work study, on-campus jobs, or both? And how do we find out when that will be held? Is for everything that is for a student. So whether it's work study, on-campus jobs, it doesn't matter. Everyone that has an opening and is requiring us like a student to work for them will be at that job fair. But like Diana said, like it's going to specify. Like when I put my posting, when I sit on the tables, I put, I'm looking for a work study student. Also the other thing is that for federal work study, the student cannot be an international student. So then I also specify that. And when I'm having the conversations with the students so that everyone is on the same page, so that then the student is not wasting their time, you know. And then like there's going to be other offices that are going to say, yeah, this is just an on-campus job, come apply. Because again, work study is a little bit more restricted. To find out when that's going to be held, I suggest you follow career development on social media because they will be posting all those things on their social media so that everyone knows. Okay, so Sean's previous question was about estimating the indirect costs, not the direct costs. So like let's say if there's like for books, supplies, miscellaneous, that kind of stuff.
So it's hard to estimate the indirect cost because it can change for person to person. So for instance, if it's a commuter student, then we have an estimated transportation cost. But your transportation cost is going to be different if you live 10 minutes away from the university as opposed to an hour. If you live an hour away, then you have more tolls, more gas. So that's why we have an estimate, but it's going to change per person. For instance, books and supplies, we have an estimate of $800. Will you be spending $800 in books and supplies? I really hope not, because there's so many different options for you. You can buy, if you buy all brand new books, yes, it's going to be expensive, but you can buy used books, you can rent books. Students now, everything is digital. You can get digital books as well. So there are options for you in order to adjust those indirect costs. And they just vary depending on the each student.
All right. Let me see. So my husband and I work part-time. How can I apply for more help to pay tuition?
So if you believe you have a circumstance, we would have to kind of take a look at the current aid offer to determine if you are or are not receiving the maximum federal and or state aid. And then once we do that, take a look at the a FAFSA application to see if there's any variable difference. As Dinah mentioned in her portion of the presentation, if there is one of those special circumstances or a special life circumstance that your income on the FAFSA does not accurately reflect your current circumstances, we can take a look at that. And you would complete that special conditions form, submit it to our office. The submission information is listed. And then the financial aid counselor for that student would reach out and just letting them know where to go from there. Again, that would depend on whether if a student is already if a student is already receiving the maximum federal and state aid eligible, then there would be no adjustment, right? Because the purpose of the special conditions is to determine whether a student can receive up to the maximum. If they're already receiving the maximum, so if the income on the FAFSA is already puts the students in the highest need and they're already receiving the maximum, then that special circumstance would not result in any additional aid. But if we're just looking, we can also kind of review the account to see if there are any other options available.
Is the office open during summer? Yes, it is. But we're actually on a summer schedule right now. So we're open Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 5:15. This week we observed Juneteenth, so we're actually observing tomorrow, but it coincided with our Fridays off. But we were open 8:30 to 4:30. The same thing is going to happen during the week of July 4th. So June 30th will be on our regular schedule, but we will have Friday off because we'll observe the holiday, but it will be from 8:30 to 4:30. Any other weeks through August?
I think the second week in August, like the 11th, the week of the
Yeah,
11th, maybe.
it will be August until August 14th. We'll be on that summer schedule from 8 to 5:15. And then the week of August 18th, we'll resume regular hours.
And that's 8 to 5:15 Monday through Thursday.
Yes. If the award letter only shows the student loan, does it mean the parent is not eligible for a Parent Plus loan?
So the aid offer will only show the student's loan because, right, the FAFSA is determining the student's eligibility for federal loans. The Parent Plus loan will not be presented on the aid offer because that is a loan that the parents have to apply for. So this does not mean the parent is ineligible. So the parent could would log into studentaid.gov. Complete the Parent Plus loan application, and then it will give you an immediate decision on screen once you submit.
And then we don't have any more questions in the chat, but there is one in the Q&A. And if there are no more questions, then I think that we're going to wrap it up after this one. But this is a divorce question again. Who is the best to contact to have a conversation about the bill, loans, and possibilities?
So you can email us at FinAid, so F is in Frank, I, N is in Nancy, A, I, D is in Dan, at wpunj.edu. And send us an email that you wish to speak with a financial aid advisor. At that point, we will determine who the financial aid advisor is for the student because advisors are allocated based on the student's major. And so once we identify the financial aid counselor, will connect you with the counselor, and then that person can discuss that with you at length.
To add to that, once the semester starts, the student will be able to see who their financial aid counselor is on their WP Connect portal. So right in their portal, they'll see their counselor's name. They'll be able to click on it in order to send a message, an email, and have that person's contact information. So let's say if you don't have any questions now, but come September, you do have a question and would like to either set up a meeting with the counselor or if you have a question, the student has access to their financial aid counselor in their WP Connect portal.
Great. Thank you so much for answering all of the questions. I don't see any more questions in the Q&A or in the chat, but I do want to take a moment to kind of like let you all know what the next steps are. So I had these two info sessions so that you could get more broad information pertaining to topics, right? So now when you come with your student during your scheduled orientation sessions throughout July and August, whichever ones they decide that they want to do, you're going to be able to have more one-on-one conversations with the residence life office, with hospitality services, with student enrollment services about the bills, and with financial aid. Because I personally think that instead of getting this info session with a whole bunch of other people, it's probably information that maybe you've heard before. By the time you get to campus, um, you already have your bill, your financial aid is on there, and then you may need more understanding on your own particular situation. So that's why I want you to have more of a one-on-one session as opposed to a broader session. So then that way you get to have more fun and have other sessions to attend during orientation. And then we are going to give you a heads up. We're splitting you guys. Like your students are going to go one way and you're going to go another way, but don't worry. Everyone is going to be well taken care of. And it's going to be a great experience for everyone. I want to make sure that this is a smooth transition for everyone, for your student, for you. You know, this may be your first time your student is going to college. Maybe you never went to college. You know, it's a new learning experience. I just want to reassure you that all of you are in great hands, and I thank you so much for your student choosing William Patterson as their school of choice. Um, and we're here to help you. And I see that someone was very overwhelmed. You know, we don't want you to be overwhelmed. We want you to have the information at your hands. And if you don't know, contact us. If I don't know, trust me, I'll find someone that is going to know the answer. So I don't want you to be overwhelmed. It may seem like that because it is a lot of information. But we're here to assist you every step of the way. So, with that said, if there's no more questions, I wish you a good night and a happy weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good evening.
Good evening.